Okay, welcome to my video introducing the NEA for Food and Nutrition, GCSE. So this is the NEA 1 section. I'm just going to start with a little do now task, introducing the word investigation. So I'm going to read have the etymology read, which is the origin of the word investigation first. And then what we'll do is we'll have a look at the definitions and a few other aspects in relation to this word, which is the main aspect, or the main aspect of the NEA Part 1. So if you just listen carefully.
Etymology of the word investigation, early 15c, from Old French investigation, 14c, from Latin investigationum, a searching into, a searching for, noun of action from past participle stem of investigare, to trace out, search after, figuratively search into, investigate, from into, to track, trace, from vestigium, a footprint, a track. Do now task, answer the questions below. Can you define what investigation means?
Okay, if you can now give your definition of the word investigation, and I will give you 30 seconds to try and do that. Okay, so this is the definition that I found. Now, this definition clearly shows that it's an action, so it's something that you put into place, investigating something or someone. Okay, so in the case of food, then you'll be investigating a particular type of food or ingredient, formula or systematic explanation or research.
Can you list some characteristics of the word investigation?
If you can now try and list down any words that are associated or characteristics of the word investigation. And again, just 30 seconds to write down your definition or your characteristics and kind of word association words that links to the word investigation.
Characteristics: examination, inquire, study, inspect, explore, consider, analyze, appraisal, research, scrutiny, scanning.
So now try and think of some examples of things that some examples of things that you might investigate in relation to food. An example, if possible. Write down a sentence there. I'll just give you 30 seconds to do that.
Can you give some examples of the word investigation? Example: study a cake to find out what ingredients have been used. Can you list some non-examples of the word investigation?
So the next thing to do is try and think about a non-example. So examples where people haven't investigated, but they've gone on and done something, and they've just done it. I don't know. Just trying to think of an example or a non-example. Sorry of that.
Non-example, guessing how to make a Swiss roll without ever seeing or trying one. Task, watch the video and then try to list 5 things you have learnt from the video.
Is we're going to watch a video which I found on YouTube about the introduction really to the NEA 1 for the food, which I thought was really useful and had lots of really useful information that's worth having a look at. Now I want you to try and write down 5 things that you've learned from the video in an exercise book or wherever, to try and help you really focus on what's being said. So just listen carefully.
Right, we're going to talk about the food investigation task, often referred to as NEA 1 or Task 1. This is the science part of the course. And you begin with having 3 choices, so that you pick from those 3 choices which strand it is that you want to follow. This piece of coursework, the duration should be 10 hours. It's worth 30 marks, and it's to understand the characteristics and the functional and chemical characteristics of ingredients, and that's what focuses on. So it is the science-based part of the course. There are practical elements, and there is a written report which should be between 1,500 and 2,000 words. I know that sounds a lot, but once you get into it and get writing your experiments up, that soon mounts up, so don't be put off by the amount of written work. For this section, you need to analyse the task. For that, it's really looking at how things work, what is the science behind the ingredients. So you need to research into that, do it carefully, do it in a focused way, use relevant websites, relevant information. I would say, best way to collect it at first is maybe to do a mind map or something like that, just to get some basic ideas down, and then slowly start to focus in. Analyse your research and then start to plan your practical investigation. So you are planning investigations yourself. I'm sure you've all done science experiments and you know how to write those up. This is the same, the only difference is you will be designing the experiments, so you have to think what it is that I'm trying to prove. For that, you need to come up with a hypothesis. That's just a long word. For a prediction, what do I think is going to happen? And then, how can I prove this using an experiment?
Okay, so for this section, these are the 5 things that I picked out, which I thought was the most useful. NEA 1 is the science part of the course. Should be completed over 10 hours, although in my school we're doing Educus, which is actually over 8 hours. Characteristics, functional and chemical elements of ingredients should be considered. It should be between 1,500 and 2,000 words. And then it can start with a mind map to get your ideas down. Okay, so at this next stage, just read the information and then answer the questions. And we can listen to this reading of the information and then answer the questions afterwards.
Assessment 1, Food. Investigation Assessment. The first assessment will be a scientific investigation into the working characteristics and the functional and chemical properties of foods. You will need to include evidence to show that you can interpret and investigate your chosen assessment, create a plan of action and propose a hypothesis or make an educated guess of what you think the outcome will be. Carry out your plan of action trialing, developing and testing. analyze the data and results and draw conclusions. Explain whether your prediction was proven.
Okay, so now I'd like you to try and answer the questions. I'm going to give you 1 minute to answer these. I think that should be enough time to be able to get those down. So just read the information and it's all within the text. Go. Okay, so question number 1, what is the first assignment about? Scientific investigation. What will you need to include in your assessment? Investigation, plan, hypothesis, trials, development, testing, analysis, and an explanation. What do you need to do to your chosen assessment? Interpret and investigate. What do you need to create? A plan of action. What do you need to propose? A hypothesis. What do you need to carry out? Your plan of action. What do you need to draw? A conclusion. And what do you need to explain? Whether your prediction was proven. Okay, next. So you're going to read this information and then try and answer the questions again in exactly the same way, and then listen carefully to the reading if not, and then again I'm going to give you a minute to then try and answer those questions.
The required word count for your completed assessment project is 1,500 to 2,000 words. Your completed project will need to be printed in A4 paper or A3 equivalent using 11 or 12. This assessment is 15% of the total of your GCSE marks. You will be allowed up to 8 hours to carry out this assessment. You will be able to gain a total of 30 marks for this assessment. You will get a choice of 2 different assessment tasks.
Okay, so first question, what is the required word count for your completed assignment project? 1,500 to 2,000 words. What size will it need to be printed in? A4. What size will the text need to be? 11 or 12. How much of the total of your GCSE mark will the NEA 1 be worth? 15%. How many hours will you be allowed to complete this assignment? 8 hours. How many marks will you be able to gain in total for your assignment? 30 marks. How many assessment tasks will you get a choice of? 2. Okay, so let's have a look at the next section. So again, This is a very simple one. Shouldn't need, I think I've only put 20 seconds on there, but just listen to the reading and then we'll answer the questions.
The marking is divided into 5 marks for the interpretation and investigation, 15 marks for the carrying out of the plan of action, the trialing, developing and testing, 10 marks for the analysis and explanations.
Okay, 20 seconds to answer this, answer these questions. All right, so that was fairly simple. So we've got 5 marks for the interpretation and investigation section, 15 marks for the trial and development and testing and plan of action, and then 10 marks for the analysis and explanation section. Okay, so we'll have a look at this bit. There's just there's an example here of the type of thing that you might get. So we're just going to listen to a reading of this again, and then we're going to try and answer these questions.
This assessment will require you to look at the working characteristics and functional and chemical properties of a given ingredient or ingredients. You will be expected to work hygienically and safely at all times. Section 4 of the Food and Nutrition textbook looks at and describes the science of food. You may find it useful to refer back to this section when preparing for your food investigation assessment. An example of a food investigation task could be as follows. Flour is available in several different types. Investigate the working characteristics and the functional and chemical properties of 3 different flours, a product from each type of flour that shows the use for flour. This assessment must be supported by investigational work.
Okay, so this, I believe, is a minute. Then you can have a listen to this and see if you can answer these questions. Okay, so what will this assessment require you to look at? The working characteristics, functional chemical properties of a given ingredient or ingredients. What will you be expected to do at all times? Work hygienically and safely at all times. What section of the food nutrition textbook looks at and describes the food of science, the science of food in section 4? And what can section 4 help you with when preparing for your food investigation assessment?